Welcome back everybody to another episode of Sneaker Updates. This will be Sneaker Updates number 74. If you happen to be new here, feel free to subscribe and enable post notifications just to stay 100% updated on every hyped sneaker. Essentially, in this series, we go over sneakers that receive updates throughout the week. For example, some of those may potentially include some Jordans, Yeezys, and more. But with that short little intro out of the way, why don't we jump right into the first update. Kicking it off for today, we have something relatively controversial to discuss, and that is what's going to occur with the Trophy Room Jordan 1 release. If you guys had a chance to watch my How to Cop guide, you may have noticed I did briefly discuss that thousands of these Trophy Room 1s have already been backdoored. However, this situation has gotten even more out of control since posting that video. More and more resellers have began posting their large amounts of Trophy Room Jordan 1s on Instagram and Twitter. This magnitude of pre-orders in proportion to the shoe's stock of 12,000 pairs is something I've never seen before. Why does this happen? Well, the answer is quite simple. Money. The sneakers are to be sold at $170, yet the pairs are going for $2,000 on the secondary market. Evidently, the individuals responsible for this clearly saw a massive gap and decided to sell them for closer to the secondary market price to buyers, allowing for a much larger profit on both ends of those buyers as well as themselves. This is nothing new. It happens all the time for numerous retailers, and it's become a well-known part of the game. You yourself may have even tried to befriend a retail owner or manager. Now, what sets this situation apart compared to most of them is how sloppily it was conducted. There was no rational sense of allowing for a somewhat reasonable fraction of pairs to be backdoored compared to the amount intended for the public. Greed has certainly got the best of whoever was responsible and left them completely nearsighted in this situation, because there's hardly any left at all now. So now who is actually responsible for this? The primary scapegoat from the majority of the public as of now is Marcus Jordan. As of now, there is no concrete evidence that points in that direction though, nor the contrary. Marcus made a statement on December 4th. Funny thing is, we haven't even paid for the sneakers yet. Up until recently, I wasn't even told that they were in America. Trophy Room has 0 pairs. Brothers in Memphis acting funny, so the family fixing it. First of all, it's important to take any public statements with a grain of salt, as we can never be completely sure which alibis line up with the truth until evidence is out. However, from a hypothetical perspective, if he was telling the truth, he should be able to back this up with his own balance sheets, and Nike's balance sheet should also reflect that. Do I think Nike cares enough to investigate though? Probably not, considering this happens all the time, let alone the fact that this is Jordan's son. It is also notable that Marcus himself actually goes out of his way to vaguely scapegoat those at Nike Memphis. Although there is no evidence proving the contrary to the public's beliefs on Marcus's partaking in this, I do believe we should have an innocent until proven guilty perspective on this, because although it does sound reasonable that he is responsible, there is not sufficient evidence to make those claims just yet. We may potentially see more responses from Marcus after the release, considering there will be mass accusations then from people who didn't end up getting their pairs, of course, the mass public. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were to just completely cancel this release, or maybe just host a raffle on their site that only 100 or so people would probably win. Also, if you are considering purchasing these for resale, please be safe, and always remember that if it is too good to be true, the price you're looking at, it's probably not. A large majority of the flex pics you see on Instagram and Twitter are fake pairs. They're not actually backdoor pairs, but there is no way for me to tell which ones are just from those images, and you can't tell either, no matter how good you are. When it comes to some of these high quality fakes, the sad part is you really can only tell when you have them in hand. So although a lot of these are definitely real backdoor pairs, I need you guys to be aware of the fact that a vast majority of these are fake pairs, and they're taking advantage of the situation that the public knows that a vast majority were definitely backdoored, so they're definitely going to prey on a lot of naive people, and unfortunately, a lot of people are going to be getting scammed. We haven't seen a situation this bad since the Soulfly Jordan 1. I think that was definitely one of the worst ones we've seen yet. But anyway, the best thing you can do is to purchase from a platform that has some kind of a middleman, such as StockX or Go, even if it costs a little bit more. It's all fun and games until you and your friend realize you both have a pair with the same exact number. In conclusion, hope for the best, prepare for the worst on this drop. 12K stock would have definitely been a decent manual shot if they were all on Trophy Room, or even a majority on Trophy Room if they did do a first come first serve with a new domain, but I do think it's unlikely at this point for it to be a good shot in general at copy. I won't even be surprised if the release is completely cancelled, or if they just end up hosting a very small raffle at this point. We don't know who is responsible yet, but we will likely see more information come out following the drop, or even after the announcement of the cancellation situation if that is hypothetically the case. And finally, please be very careful when purchasing in the secondary market. There is going to be a significant amount of fakes out there circulating already. Now, let's move on to the rest of the updates for Jordans with that out of the way. First of all, the Carmine Jordan 6 has now just loaded onto Nike sneakers as a Leo drop. Be sure to check out my How to Cop guide if you have not yet still, and I do have some good news as well as some bad news regarding these. The bad news is that apparently there were some manufacturing defects for these, causing a pretty large number of them to actually not be suitable for release. Although the stock is still pretty high for a retro, it now may be lower than expected because of this, and that means of course it will be slightly more difficult to cop, unfortunately. The good news is that this will definitely have a positive effect on the secondary market, so if you do end up getting a pair, they'll actually be going for more now in comparison to what they would have without this situation. We'll see exactly how it goes, but either way, I was going to go full throttle on these anyway, so I could not care less, and I'm sure a lot of you guys were too. Moving on, we have some more bad news. Unfortunately, the Jordan 4 University Blue has now been delayed again, now to April 28th. Although retail is a little higher on these at $225, as I have mentioned before, I do still feel that these have good potential to be profitable, just not for the greatest margin. March and April are definitely both shaping up to be pretty stacked quite nicely. Moving on, the Jordan 13 Red Flint has also been moved to May 8th for $190, but no big deal here because I do expect these to be mainly a personal pair anyway. Then moving on from those, we got a closer look at the Jordan 1 Light Fusion Red courtesy of Hanzuin. These will be dropping on June 21st for $170. Expect these to be profitable with a good margin as well. Then we got our very first look at the Jordan 1 Zoom Comfort Stadium Green. These will be dropping later this year for $170. Evidently, Jordan is really trying to push these Zoom Comforts hard, and some pairs such as the Guava and Pink pair have actually been performing quite well. But as for a large portion of them, they have not, unfortunately, and I don't think this green pair will be one of the pairs to do too well. And we're going to be talking about a lot more Zoom Comforts in this video because we did get a lot more news of some other ones coming up. So speaking of Zoom Comforts, it looks like we will be getting another Alili May collab, now on the Jordan 1 Zoom Comfort. She did post these on Instagram as well, but she did not yet specify release details, so I will have to keep you guys updated. Regarding resale, these may not be the most desirable colorway, but neither was the last Jordan 1 Alili May, yet they still sold for decent profit. Retail is only $150 on these, which I certainly feel is sufficient room for easy small profit with a decent margin, but still, I'm not expecting anything too significant on these. Then we got our very first look at the Jordan 1 Mid to my first coach. This will actually be part of a full collection dropping soon that we discussed not too long ago. We'll actually have a Jordan 1 Low and Zoom Comfort both releasing in combination with this mid. These are set to release this summer for $170 in the Zoom Comforts, $140 in the mids, and $120 in the Jordan 1 Low. Expect the mid and Zoom Comfort to be easy lunch money at least, but we'll know for sure as we do approach the release. Moving on, the Jordan 1 Zoom Comfort Pro Bowl will be released in the next couple of months. First look via Cameron Jordan. I would expect these to also be easy profit with a decent margin when they do end up dropping. Then we got a detailed look at the Jordan 1 Light Army courtesy of Rye Vibes. These will drop on March 13th for $170. Expect them to be profitable with a good margin as well. Now with Jordans out of the way though, let's move on to Yeezys. On February 8th, we will be getting the Yeezy 500 High walk around for $220. Yeezy 500 Highs don't tend to perform very well, unfortunately, and I'm not expecting this pair to do anything too different unless they end up being extremely limited, but there is no way for me to tell until stock does load on Yeezy Supply for Adidas item. So overall, shouldn't be anything too crazy for these unless they end up being extremely limited. We'll see when they do end up loading. And lastly, Yeezy Mafia did recently tweet out an image of a pair of 350s that looks very similar to the March 350s, which will likely end up seeing released soon. I have no idea why they choose these colors though. Let me know what you guys think about these. Moving on to some miscellaneous sneakers now. With the Yeezys out of the way, we now have an exact release date for the Kobe 6 All-Star. These will be dropping on February 20th for $180. Expect these to be very profitable with a great margin as well. Moving on from those, the Dunk Low UNLV, Hyper Cobalt, and Coast have all loaded for the 18th on Nike sneakers. If you guys recall from my last update, the US release was unfortunately delayed, but luckily it's not too far from now. Expect all of these to be very profitable with great margins as well. They're a little low now because Europe already did drop, and like I did mention in my How to Cop guide, the stock on these is certainly higher than the majority of other hype dunks that we have been seeing. But anyway, moving on from those, the Dunk Low Red Plum will be releasing this summer for $100, mock-up courtesy of Z Sneakerheads. Expect these to be very profitable profitable with a great margin when they do release. Then we got our very first look at the Overbreak Undercover collab. There will be 4 colorways and they should release on February 19th. I'll have to keep you guys updated regarding resale though. Moving on, we get our first look at the Clot Air Max 1 Kiss of Death, courtesy of DJ Khaled. These are set to release in March for the very first time in 15 years. So that's right, these are a retro. Expect them to be very profitable with a great margin when they do end up dropping. Then courtesy of Brassmark 78, we have our very first look at the SB Dunk Classic Green. These will be dropping sometime this spring for $100. Expect them to be very profitable with a great margin as well. And finally for today, the SB Dunk Low Chlorophyll will be dropping in December of this year for $100. Expect them to be profitable with a great margin as well. Anyway, that'll conclude it for today. Feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed or you perhaps learned a thing or two. More importantly though, leave a comment down below how you feel about this whole backdooring incident. Subscribe and enable post notifications to stay 100% updated on all hyped releases. Also, feel free to check out the links in the description below for reliable, fast, residential proxies and pre-verified Nike sneakers accounts. Last but not least, make sure to follow KeithAdam10 and Personals for You so you guys stay updated on all urgent info like I was discussing today. With that though, I'll see you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of your day and good luck on all these upcoming releases.